What's at stake in global politics and your source for the social, economic, and political impact of public policy on the African American community. Your host, Kelly Michael Williams, is a political strategy veteran with an undefeated campaign record and the political experience that spans nearly 3 decades, from Mayor Willie Brown in California to President Barack Obama in our nation's capital. So get ready for a fresh and honest approach on the politics that affect you and your family the most. Now, your host, Kelly Michael Williams.
Tonight. Hello there. All right, we're live. Tonight, pre-election night. We're gearing up before election day, and for those of you who have not already voted, who have not already gotten out there are a couple of places that I'll probably share with you where you can go. Same day registration, as well as same day registration and voting. You can do it all in one swoop. We'll probably get to that later on. I'll certainly try to get that to you before we get off here. But before I do anything, I always want to thank you for joining us for another broadcast here at What's at Stake, or another broadcast of What's at Stake right here on Black Politics Today platform. I want to thank you because it's always a joy for me, for my guests, for those of you who are watching in live, who pay attention, who learn, who feed us, give us comments and feed us back and let us know that possibly something that we're doing is actually working, and it's actually attracting you or touching you or helping you. But this pre-election broadcast, we're going to try to analyze some things. We're going to look and see what's going to happen tomorrow. But more importantly, we're going to talk about what happens the day after tomorrow, what happens on Wednesday. But before we get started, of course, I always thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for just allowing me to host this show, have this platform, have the guests I continue to get each and every week who support us, who support me, who support you, because their insight, their information, their wisdom helps you to understand, helps you get new revelations and new understanding of exactly what this whole process is about and what's going on. So it's a tremendous honor for me, for those of you who continue to support us, who continue to tune in each and every week and join us and allow us to come into your space and disrupt it and do what we do. As many of you have, as I said, many of you have prepared to go to the polls tomorrow. Those of you who have not already voted, hopefully I pray that most of you have already voted, and that you made sure that your ballot was already received and you tracked it and it's gotten there, compared to those who, as I saw today in Florida, mail ballots and everything else are still stacked up in the back of the post office, which is absolutely crazy, which is absolutely ridiculous, and shouldn't be, of course, but it's there. It's a strategic plan. That's what they wanted to do. And unfortunately, some folks are going to get disenfranchised, but I pray to God that, like what happened in Milwaukee back in May or June, when Republicans wanted to disenfranchise and stop people from voting, that folks turned out, showed up with a mask, voted overwhelming, put a Democrat on the Supreme Court, which they thought they were going to get, and really turned over some stuff there in Milwaukee. I hope that happens across the nation, because unlike independents and Democrats, the GOP, they don't want you to vote. They don't want you to vote. They don't want to count your vote, because for them, it's a whole lot easier, because they know that their voters are going to go out. Their voters are going to turn out. They do it all the time because they're sycophants. They do whatever they're told. They're like lap dogs and puppy dogs. Go do this, and that's what they do. Look at the party. That's what the hell they do. They do whatever the hell they're told to do, and they do it like lap dogs. Quite frankly, I'm not going to use that term, but they just do it like lap dogs. I'm gonna just say it like that, and it's crazy to me. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't get it, but that's what happens. And unfortunately, they don't care about violating the Constitution. They don't care about disenfranchising people. They don't care about, you not getting your votes in. They don't care about it. And that's why it pisses me off every time Black folks, white folks, all of us, but especially Black folks for me, sit around and say, oh, I'm not going to vote, or I'm not going to participate, or I'm not going to do something. I'm like, okay, do you not understand the reason why things are the way they are is sometimes because we sit on our asses and don't do anything? That's why. Because as Jesus, I can't think of her name right now. I'm missing it. LaTanya told us voting is power, and this is power. What we're doing and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to sustain is our collective power, being able to collectively generate and garner power. The reality of it is that if we don't win the majority in these state houses, Republicans are going to gerrymander these districts even more so, because the Supreme Court has said they can do it based on party and politics. And basically they can do it based on race. So they can easily cut you out, put you in a corner, and leave you there. And you literally have no value or participation in everything else, because they just cut all the Black folks out in the corner, put them over on the side, and let the rest of the state or the rest of the district do what they want to do. And they can put in policies that are going to ultimately affect your daily life. And that's why I do this every week. I get the guests I get, because we need to talk about what the hell is going to happen come Wednesday, especially if Joe Biden loses. Now, even more so if he wins, but especially if he loses, what the hell are we going to do? Now, we heard about what the hell we got to lose. Now we got to figure out what the hell we're going to do, because the reality of it is whatever happens in those states, in those jurisdictions, it's going to happen for the next 10 years. So when you don't respond to the census, when you don't put, folks in office that are going to protect your interests and draw those lines differently, you get screwed. Money doesn't come to your district. Representation doesn't come to your district. A whole bunch of crap happens. And you sitting back saying, oh yeah, whatever. But then you want to bitch, gripe, and complain about why shit's happening the way it is. So that's the way it is. So ask yourself, do you want another 10 years of Trump? Because that's what's going to happen in your state. Even if he wins, if he loses, that's what's going to happen if you haven't voted in your state elections. If you haven't voted in your down ballot elections, that's what's going to happen. So is that what you want? Or do you want something different? Do you want state legislature to continue to do what Trump's been doing, even if Joe Biden is president? Or do you want to do something different? Because that's what's going to happen. So if you have not voted, get your mask, get your gloves, get your hat, get your food, get your water, get your chair, get your cell phone, get your extra battery, get whatever you need and get out there early in the morning, stand for whatever you have to stand for, sit for what you have to sit for, get somebody to switch off with you, tag team, do whatever you got to do, because literally as we talk about voting, like your life depends on it, it really does. It really does. And it's mind-boggling to me that we don't recognize that and understand it. And let me be clear about that, because under this current Congress and the state legislatures that you guys have, they are not going to compromise or do anything just because Joe Biden gets in office. They're going to try to undermine and stop everything they want to do. Think about the fact that they're trying to stop you from voting. They're trying to stop your ballots from being counted. They're trying to stop all of that. So if they're trying to do that now, what do you think they're going to do if Joe Biden wins and Democrats win and take the Senate, or Democrat wins and do everything else? They're going to do it even harder. They're going to try even harder to disenfranchise, to stop, to block, to do what they want to do. So tonight, we're going to talk about that. Vote your down ballots. But my guest tonight, to help me shine the light on this and other things, they don't need any introductions. They've been here before, but certainly I'm grateful to them, and I'm grateful for their time and joining us. Is Sirius XM host and adjunct professor. He is the host of Inside the Issues with Wilmer Leon. Is Dr. Wilmer Leon. Many of you have seen him, heard him. He is my historian. Whenever I want to know something historically, I always go to him. That political science professor, he's a, look at all them books he got. Look at it. Look at all them books he's got back there. Right? And I bet you read it.
Both of them were written by Gerald Horne.
Right.
I'll give a big shout out to Dr. Gerald Horne.
Okay, and bringing it back to us again is my partner in crime, my partner in investments and wealth generator, Milwaukee, Wisconsin State Representative of the 11th District, right there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is my boy Jason Fields.
What's up, Kels? Good afternoon, Professor.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. How are you?
Right there, that's the doctor. Okay. Yeah. So let me get into this and let me welcome you guys to the show. And Jason, you've been participating in town halls as Dr. Wilmer's been participating with us and helping us out on the show. I'm gonna start with you, Wilmer. It's been a minute since we had you on because you've been busy running around with your own talk show. But let me ask you, since the last time we've had you on and just thinking about all that's occurred right now, tell me what is the one thing that's got in your craw in this last few weeks that just like me, just like it's like it's there, it's irritating the hell out of you, and you really wanna like shout out, speak out, or slap somebody.
Probably two things. One would have to be COVID, and the fact that it's just running rampant, not only around the world, because we've just seen what's happening in France, in Germany, in England, and that we know that the resurgence of COVID tends to hit Europe first, and then we follow. And when it hits here, it is exponentially worse.
Right.
And as it really, and I say that because there are so many other things tangentially that come from that, such as the unemployment numbers. I mean, every week we're getting 750,000 more individuals signing up for unemployment for the first time.
And that's the lowest number.
I'm sorry.
That's the lowest number.
Oh yeah, well that's the federal number. That doesn't include those that are applying for state benefits, because then that makes the number around 1.2 million people.
Exactly.
And that's low because the average over the month of September was about 180 to 180,000 folks. So that and then looking at the election, probably the thing that really bothers me is the lack of discussion about substantive, ongoing discussion about voter suppression.
Yes.
Because they're telling, people are telling us to vote, telling us to mail in our ballots, but it's not mailing in your ballot. The question is your mail, because yes, that is important. But the thing that then has to be asked is that ballot going to be tallied? Is it going to be counted?
Right.
Because MIT, a study from MIT shows that 23% of mail-in ballots don't get counted.
Right.
So that's the short answer to your question.
You didn't have to be short, but I appreciate that. Jason, what about you? What's gotten to you?
You know what I think is, and I agree everything the professor said. I think for me, I'll tell you what gets to me, and you hit on it in your intro, and it's this idea that if we don't get to a point as Black folks in the community, that to a point where we have to just wake up and realize that this is about us, and that we cannot continue to moan and complain and wait for certain people to do right. Like if 2020 has taught us one thing, is that at the end of the day, our destiny is going to be on us. And so when I hear people say, particularly Black folks, I'm undecided. 2 days before the election, or
that's what I'm saying. Who the hell are you undecided about?
Well, that means they don't understand the question.
or still, I'm not gonna vote. It don't work. Because to me, that shows that we haven't evolved to a higher level of understanding that, number one, if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And number two, we can't keep waiting for people to want to treat us right. At some point, we really got to get to a place where we're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Exactly.
And for me, if this current administration has not brought us to that point, then I'm frightened.
Nothing.
Because, like you said, what happens if worst case scenario he wins?
Right.
So that's what gets me. That's what that we still haven't just gotten to a point where, you know what, it's time out. Let's take our own destiny in our hands and let's run with it.
And that's really it, because I'm sick of and a couple of things that get me is that one right there, Jason. The idea that we sitting back talking about, okay, we don't know, are we like Trump because, you know, he's a gangster, he gonna do this and he gonna do that, and I'm gonna do my best, family. I'm gonna do my best to try to keep my tongue. I'm gonna do my best, but I'm gonna tell you, this show tonight and probably the one next week, especially if Trump win, it's gonna be a profanity fest. I'm just like sick and tired of being sick and tired. But what really gets me is this idea, and what's bothering me is the talk from talking head Democrats and everything else about, oh, well, he can't take the election. The people are going to speak. Dumbasses, what the hell has he been doing for the last 4 years?
Taking stuff.
He's been taking stuff. He's been disrupting everything. He's got the Attorney General in his back pocket, and he's got 6 darn Supreme Court justices right there waiting for him. And he already had one of them say, we can't count ballots after Election Day because there might be some fraud. Yeah. Now, we've been counting ballots after Election Day for 160 dang gone years, and it's never been a problem. But now, all of a sudden, it's a problem. And Democrats sitting around talking about, well, we're going to do we're going to do what this Constitution says. When he's already violated the darn Constitution. I'm just like, I just want to slap, I want to slap the taste out their mouth. And it just bothers me. But then the second part of that is to us.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it's true. I don't know. But they're saying the black folks in Florida, Miami-Dade, and everywhere else, they sitting back talking about, well, we not voting. No, we haven't gotten a vote. I'm hoping that they're the ones that say we're going on Election Day because it's just tradition. It's just the idea that, we want to go to the polls. I'm hoping that's it. But if it isn't it, then everybody in darn Florida get what the hell they deserve. They deserve DeSantis. They deserve what's his name, Scott. They deserve Rubio, and they're gonna deserve Trump, because if they're gonna sit on their behind after realizing and recognizing what has already happened, then there's nothing we can do. And like you said, it's like if this administration and this year hasn't taught you something. Now, granted, previous years we've been like, oh my God, don't like Bush, don't like Reagan, don't want this, don't want that. But this right here,
right? Yeah.
And like I did the show, I think the show I did with you before, Jason, was like, is it real for you yet?
Yeah.
Is it real yet? Or maybe that was you, Warmer. But the point is now, like I said, this is our moment of truth. Tomorrow is our moment of truth. And we have to decide what we're going to do. Are we going to piss or get off the pot? What the hell are we going to do, Wilmer?
Well, to Jason's point earlier, our politics.
So look at him, Jason. He's so calm. Well,
our politics has to mature.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of folks are saying that they don't like Biden, and I got that.
Right.
But this is one of, usually, we understand that people usually don't vote against something, they vote for something.
That's right.
But this is one instance where you are truly voting against fascism in America. Yeah. Whether you like Joe Biden, whether Kamala Harris was the best selection, at this stage of the game, this is a critical mass. Folks don't realize Make America Great Again. He took that from Benito Mussolini. Mussolini said, make Italy great again. Drain the swamp. Trump stole that from Mussolini. That was a line that, I think his name was Benito. Mussolini said in the 40s. So he is quoting fascists. Mm-hmm. And he is slowly, Sinclair Lewis had a book, it can never happen here, or it can't happen here.
Right.
It can, and it is.
Right.
And this is what folks have. So this is one where you're gonna, if you got to vote against him, if you don't like Biden, you gotta vote against fascism in America. And to your point about the Supreme Court, a lot of people don't realize that Chief Justice Roberts worked for George W. Bush in
Right.
Bush v. Gore.
Right.
Kavanaugh
Yeah,
worked
Kavanaugh.
for Bush
Yes.
in Bush v.
That's right.
Gore.
So this
Amy Coney Barrett
That's right.
worked for Bush
All
in
three.
Bush v. Gore.
That's right.
So I never got around to writing the piece, but I had a piece in my head entitled "You Can't Trust the Polls When the Game is Fixed," and the game, folks, is fixed.
Yeah.
They have fixed the process.
Right.
It's not about the Russians. It's not about the Iranians hacking in or buying Facebook ads. Folks, it's not about the Russians and it's not about the Kremlin. It's about the Republicans and Kobach. It's about the cross-check program. It's about removing you from the rolls so you can't cast your ballot.
Right. That's right.
That's what this is about.
Right. And that's always been about.
I love the fact that you pointed that out, because we always hear, my vote doesn't matter. And just recently we started hearing stuff like, well, if your vote didn't matter, why are they trying so hard to not let you do it?
Exactly.
And Professor, I agree with you. It is at some point we have to have a higher level of political, whether that be political discourse or a discussion or dialogue, because what happens is we keep getting played. And, earlier, Kelly, you asked what's one of the things that bother me. And it's this new, all of a sudden, and I can't figure it out, how all of a sudden you have these black and brown men all of a sudden going to the Trump. And I'm sitting here going, listen, if you are a Republican and that's you, if that's who you really are, okay, I can accept it and love you. But when you put yourself in a position to be used,
right,
that right there, I can't respect that.
Cannot.
Because what it says is that, first off, no, the public did not choose, and I have nothing against these hip hop artists. The public didn't choose these people as representatives or leaders.
Right.
And secondly, if you really cared, you would have been having these discussions a long time ago. Right. You wouldn't wait 2-3 days before the election.
Exactly.
And I'm disappointed in, again, whoever these brothers, brown and black brothers are, where was the intellectual, where was the contemplation of all of this? It's if they just woke up and going, well, now he cares about us. I don't understand that. And it goes to, Professor, what you were saying. We have not evolved intellectually when it comes to this political game and recognizing what it's really about. We keep falling for the okie doke, and they got us all over the place. And then we start complaining, Kelly, when things don't go our way. Well, hell, we ain't played the game well.
No, you haven't. If you want to join the conversation, give us a call at 516-590-0143. That's 516-590-0143. And to your point, Jason, and Dr. Wilmer, that's exactly it. I mean, what bothers me is you had Jeff Sessions come out and explicitly tell us he's doing away with all the consent decrees. He's getting rid of all of those things, and we're going back to I forgot what the term is, but we're going back to charging you, for whatever federal offense you have. We're going to charge you for every darn thing we can charge you for. So we're going to go to the least to the most, and we're going to get you on something or all of it. And we're going to do that so that we can put your butt in jail for a longer amount of time. Now, who is that targeting? Black men. So then you have test tube babies going out there saying, oh, well, I'm supporting Donald Trump because he's about business. I don't want to pay taxes. I sent out a tweet last week. I said, okay, Mr. 50, right? Because 50 cents is about as much brains that you got in your damn head. So you don't want to pay taxes because you're in that category. But everybody that's buying your junk has to pay them darn taxes. Everybody that's buying that stuff that you putting out, they're the ones who's getting jacked up, messed up, pissed on, babies getting taken from them, and everything else. So you don't care about the fact that you don't have to pay taxes. But what about your nieces and nephews who aren't in that same category? What about your sisters and brothers who are not in that same financial bracket you're in? What about the other people in your community that do have to pay that? Well, more importantly, who are going to get abused by the system because they don't have the ability to get a lawyer like you are or an attorney like you are. They're going to have a public defender or something like that. What about them? And then I got the tweet about what's his name?
Lil Wayne.
Yeah. Lil Wayne.
Oh my God.
Exactly. Okay. And then he's gonna take a picture with his thumbs up and hey, yeah. I would have slapped him. That I tweeted his ass too. I said, okay, since he's our best chance, let's come on the show tonight and explain to us what his best chance is. Because I would love to hear you articulate the damn policy that you think is our best chance. Because I know your ignorant ass can't do it. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me, Jason, how and why they're doing that. Remember, Biden's got a 10-point lead nationally, but even that doesn't secure him in any form or fashion because of battleground states. So he could easily come up short in any one of those in Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, any of these states where they're saying, oh, he's got a 5-point lead, he's got a 6-point lead. But again, I believe there is that silent majority that can come out for Trump. I do believe that there are some folks that are going to say, oh, I'm voting for Biden, just like they did for Hillary, and they're going to vote for Trump. Because the irony of it is that you don't want to say you're supporting the man, but you support him, but you want to, I mean, how bad is it that the man that you want to be elected, you can't even publicly say, I support him?
Well, there's a lot to be said with that. Supporting him up until January might have been understood, even though that in and of itself is hard to digest. But once COVID hit, all bets were off the table. And then once the tapes came out, where he was laying out very clearly that he was lying to the American people. Once we found out that he was bringing investors in to the White House and explaining them that they needed to sell short because this COVID thing was going to decimate the economy and he didn't want them to lose their money. But what you hear when those points are brought up is, but what? How do you but that? You asked a question about Lil Wayne and 50, and this is to me very clear examples of the dangers of black capitalism. Because what they're demonstrating is what happens when you replace white capitalism with black capitalism. What you get is black people oppressing you the same way that white folks, because it's all focused on the individual.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that we should not make money. I'm not saying that we should not generate wealth. I'm not saying that we should not own everything we can get our hands on. The question is, what is the process and who pays the price?
Right.
So what Lil Wayne is telling you is, and what 50 is telling you is, it's about my taxes.
Right.
But see, our struggle in this country since we got here in 1619 has never been about the individual. It's always been about the collective. Whether you were reading Frederick Douglass, whether you were listening to Fannie Lou Hamer, Mrs. Hamer sacrificed so that we could vote, not so that she could vote.
Right.
Du Bois wrote about the souls of black folk, not about the soul of some guy named T-Bone.
Right.
So they unfortunately have bought into the primary basis of Republican ideology is the individual.
Individualism.
It's individualism.
Right.
And that will never serve us in the midst of Dr. King talked about us moving us forward. Yes, he put it in the broader context of humanity and struggling for the rights of all people, but he was a race man first and always. And that unfortunately gets lost because folks want to make him out to be this pie in the sky dreamer as opposed to being a fundamental grassroots activist. Even Jesus. I mean, we could get into the discussion about that. I think he was a Palestinian Jew. We could get into, so you've got Mike Pence talking about he's a Christian, lying to the American people about their health.
Okay.
Lying about. I thought and Kelly, you're much deeper in this than I am, but I thought being a Christian was to be Christ-like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that Palestinian Jew wasn't going around lying to people.
Right. Okay. Right.
He was about liberating people.
Right.
So this fake Christianity. So with that, I'm
taking care of that. I'm taking away their health care, taking away their voting rights, taking away everything.
That ain't Christian.
Right.
That ain't Christian.
Right, lying about the man who's had 19 different affairs, women, being attacked or raped or, grabbing them by their genitals and all this stuff. And he's sitting back saying nothing.
Right.
Saying absolutely nothing.
No.
It's been the biggest hypocrisy to me. And I was on the radio and I do a Christian radio show, Kelly, I think you know that. And this whole idea of it's like you said, Professor, it's the but. Right. And how do you get to but?
Right.
Yeah, but.
How do you get to, I don't like Joe Biden, he for abortion, but you easily justify all the unchristian attitudes and things that has been done. And I haven't gotten to, where's that, why have we gotten to that point where we justify that? And then, Kelly, what I'm really thinking about is what you said earlier. And I'm lost. God forbid Trump wins. Where do we even go from there? I mean, that is a frightening thought that we have.
It really is. It really is, because the reality of it is this. And what most people don't understand, and I hope our listeners understand, is that Bill Barr has already said that the president has absolute authority. Absolute authority. So with that being said, that means that whatever he decides to do, Bill Barr is going to let him do it, and it's not going to be a problem. At the same time, if Democrats don't take over the Senate, we already know Mitch McConnell and everybody in the Senate are going to let him do what he wants to do. So reality is that he has no checks and balances any longer, because he can run rumshot and do whatever he wants. They let him fly to Scotland and charge the U.S. government for refueling planes at his resort. They've allowed him to send Mike Pence to sleep in his resort when he should have been sleeping at a hotel right where he was, but then he had to use the airplane to fly back and forth. That's our taxpayer dollars. They've allowed his kids to basically use Secret Service to go and do whatever they want to do, and charge the Secret Service to stay in their hotels and their facilities. So they're charging the federal government to protect they behind, because they get Secret Service protection. But now we have to pay for that, not because they're going to Marriott or somewhere else. They're going to their own places, and we're paying for it. They've allowed so much mess. And that's why, like you said to me, for Black folks and white folks, to sit there and say, oh, okay, but they know darn well if Obama had done any of that, if he had just, had a tape come out about Obama saying that he had held back on them when the H1N1 came, or the other virus that came in, right? The SARS. If they had tapes on him saying, oh well, I'm just trying to downplay it because I don't want to panic anybody, and I did it on purpose because I really just I want to keep it low. I don't want to tell anybody about it, and yeah, 200,000 people are dead. These Republicans, black folks, will be up in arms. As much as we would try to protect him, we would be secretly saying, dude, what was you thinking, dog? Why did you do that? We'd be out there. And it's a whole thing is that it would be a struggle and because there's no defense. There was nothing we would be able to say. We couldn't say, yeah, but, because there would be no but to go to. We wouldn't have anything. And I mean, think about it, Wilmer. You're sitting there. I remember when the coronavirus first hit, and everybody was saying, and Trump was too. Yeah, but you let all these people die under H1N1, and you did this and did that. I think we had 13,000 people die. It was something like that. It was gone within the year, but we didn't have to shut down the economy. We didn't have anything that's going on, and the whole point and process of the virus and everything we did at that point stopped the H1N1. Mm-hmm. And he's getting what's called herd immunity. We're going to herd immunity now. 1 million people dead are dying, and that's where we're left in it, and where we're going to be to deal with it. How do we deal with that, Wilmer?
Well, let me. You mentioned herd immunity. So here are the rough numbers. We've got let's say 330 million people in the country, right? In order for herd immunity to actually work, 70, I think the number is 70% of those 330 million people have to get the virus or have to get inoculated. Okay, so that's times 0.7. So that's 231 million people in this country that have to either get the virus or get a vaccine. The virus, I think, is 3% fatal, right? So that means that I think that's almost 7 million people will die.
Right.
Through the herd immunity process. That's what and my numbers might be a little off, but I'm not off by that much. So let's just say I'm off. Let's say it's 5 million. 5 million people, based upon the projections of public health people, are going to die if you go the herd immunity route. So Mike Pence, are you going to sacrifice yourself? Are you going to be one of those 5 million? Are you going to sacrifice your wife?
Right.
Donald Trump, are you going to sacrifice your kids? Are you going to put them in the pool of the 5 or 7 million people that are going to die? If you are willing to do that, then okay.
Yeah.
But chances are you're not.
Exactly.
Chances are you're not. And those are I'm not off much with those numbers.
Professor, you hit on.
And I think 1 second, Jason. Doctor or Jason, is one of your things open or something like that? We're getting a feedback.
What do you mean? Which is
I just muted my mic. Are you getting it from me?
No, I can hear you now. That's good. You muted?
I just unmuted.
Okay.
Let me try. Can you hear something now?
No, go ahead.
Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Jason. You were going to say?
I was saying, Professor, I think you pointed to something earlier, and it goes to the point you just made, that there has been no real intellectual dialogue coming from this current administration. And I challenge anybody to tell me, what policies does he stand for? Because you've heard no real policies outside of criticism of personally on someone, or just a bunch of wish lists of things that he couldn't do. No real economic development plan. You talk about what do we have to lose? A continuation of a trickle down policy that does not work. because at the end of the day, Professor, like you said, it focuses on the Republican mindset on the individual. And I have yet to see economically where trickle-down economics has worked or has benefited us as a community.
It's never worked.
If we talk about education policy, he made this grandiose statement saying that, oh, I saved the HBCUs, which is in itself is just a very pompous, stereotypical, narcissistic view to even say that. And what he really didn't, all he did was sign the law that was worked on from a bipartisan fashion. He didn't save anything.
He didn't do anything with it, right? He signed the bill. Right? It's advantageous for him to do. Because if it wasn't advantageous for him to do, he wouldn't have done it.
And so I challenge anybody, what policies has he really come up with?
Right. He hasn't come up with anything. Let's be clear. He hasn't come up with anything. Now, Mitch McConnell and the Congress, they've come up with stuff. But he himself has come up with nothing. Absolutely nothing. And now they're pumping and pushing this platinum plan. The platinum plan isn't worth the paper it's written on. All it is platitudes about, oh, what we gonna do? Oh, what we gonna do? Well, you have 4 years. Why didn't you do it?
Which is the point. First off,
wait for the next administration to do it. You could have done it in the first 4 years after you quote unquote saved the HBCUs, after you did all your criminal justice reform. That wasn't yours either.
First off, I find the name condescending. I mean, the platinum plan. And then secondly, where and you hit it right on the head. Where was this discussion earlier?
Right.
And I find it if it's African American men, brown, if it's Black folks who don't understand that is so condescending and an insult to your intelligence, that all of a sudden you are led to believe that this is a plan that shows he cares, then you are part of the problem, because it's the same rhetoric. Where, like you said before, where was this 4 years ago? Where was this 2 years ago?
Anytime. I mean, it's just like the infrastructure bill. It's just like the middle class tax cut. It's just like everything else. It's there in word only. I'm going to take a caller real quick here. Hold on 1 second, Wilmer. Hello, caller. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. Thanks for taking my call, and good evening, everybody on the line.
Turn your volume up, caller. Caller, turn your volume up. We can barely hear you.
Okay. I'm going to have to better now.
Can you guys hear him? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. No, just saying hello to everybody. I'm probably going to have a different perspective in this, that I had voted for Obama twice, have volunteered in his campaign, was a big supporter of his, but in this election, I'm definitely going to be voting for Trump without any question. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that what Obama and Joe Biden did when they came in. Because what I hear a lot of people say is they try to justify their lack of actually advancing good policy by saying the Republicans had the House and the Senate, which was true during his second term. But people forget the first 2 years they came in, they had a supermajority in the Senate and the House, meaning the Democrats could pass any legislation they wanted, unchallenged, without the Republicans being able to stop them in any way, shape, or form. 2 years. And I challenge anyone to tell me, what did they produce in those 2 years?
Was that a question?
Yes, that's a question.
Healthcare, DACA.
In the first 2 years?
Yeah. That's why the Democrats lost the House in 2010, because he passed healthcare.
Right.
So that's what.
And Obamacare was. You consider that a great healthcare plan that they passed? You like it? You thought it was good?
Well, if you didn't have healthcare, you would. Do you have healthcare?
Yes, I have healthcare.
Well, if you didn't have healthcare,
let me get it straight. So
you would appreciate it. If you were uninsured, you would appreciate it. But let me just say to you, sir, that I think I think these are really two separate discussions. Yeah. The failure of the Obama administration. The failure of the Obama administration.
I'm trying to get you to be consistent here.
Well, no, I'm going to be very consistent. First of all, you haven't heard me say anything about President Obama, and this has nothing to do.
I've been listening for the last 5-10 minutes on this line. You've been applying a certain criticism, which I actually agree with to a certain degree when it comes to this current administration. But I'm just wondering, are you going to apply that same standard to the previous one?
I always have, and Kelly can tell you that I always have. because I'm not an Obama fan. And I could tell you a lot of things that are wrong with the Obama administration. But that should not be the standard here. We are in a different time. This is a different issue. This is a much, much, much different problem. When you look at, you also want to know another thing that positive that came from the Obama administration was the JCPOA, was the nuclear agreement with Iran, which Donald Trump just came in and tore it up.
Sir, with all due respect, that nuclear agreement with Iran was trash.
No, well, you don't know. Let me tell you something. You don't know what you're talking about. You just don't know what you're talking about. And I don't have time to go through. If you made that statement, you don't know what you're talking about, brother.
The inspectors could only look where the Iranian government told them they could look. You think that's a good agreement? You think that would actually make sure they weren't developing a nuclear weapon? Are you serious?
Okay, caller. I'm gonna let Wilmer answer, and I need you to be quiet and listen.
No, I just want to just be clear. This brother's trying to insult my intelligence like I don't know this. So I serve in the military. I have a national security clearance. I'm very familiar with the terms of that agreement. For you to insinuate that was somehow a good deal and to bring it up like it's an accomplishment, that's an embarrassment in our country. John Kerry went with that deal because he wanted to say he made a deal. Anyone who reads the terms of that deal knows that's a non-deal. We didn't get anything we wanted. So for you to sit there and make it seem like, the great intellectual.
So let me ask you a question, caller. Let me ask you a question. Under the deal, were the Iranians developing nuclear weapons?
There was no way to confirm whether
it was a yes or no question, brother. Under the deal, were they developing?
Of course not. You have no way of how could we possibly
yes
know
or no
with the terms of that deal?
Because I talked to the weapons inspectors. That's how I know. Because I talked to the UN weapons inspectors. That's how I know. And oh, by the way, Mr. Security Clearance, I've been to Iran twice. But look, two things, Kelly, two things. If he doesn't understand the value of that agreement, and he's going to say because of his dislike for the Obama administration, now he's going to vote for Trump again.
Right.
Ain't nothing I can say to him, man.
Right.
Ain't nothing I can say to him.
I mean,
and then he's waiting for the great pumpkin. He probably sat in the pumpkin patch waiting for the great pumpkin.
But wait a minute. What really got me was, okay, what can you say was accomplished the first 2 years? So then you get the accomplishment.
Yeah, but
okay.
Yeah, but
I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, but
give me a same.
I'm done, man. I'm muting. I'm done with that.
About this.
Okay, yeah, let's go on. So Jason, okay, I'm gonna leave him there to keep talking to himself because he obviously didn't realize that he wasn't on. He was still talking. Okay, he clearly didn't understand that. Okay.
No one mentioned Obama. I guess I didn't.
Exactly. No one was talking about Obama at all.
No, but what he said was we were using the same rationale to judge Trump that we were using.
No, the only thing I said was that had Obama done anything that Trump had done, the Republicans and everybody be up in arms. That's the only time I mentioned Obama.
And that's true. I mean,
that's absolutely true. So for him to sit here and try to tell us, well, how do you know that they didn't develop anything? Well, dude, you're the one with the national security clearance. How do you know that they weren't? So, I mean, you're sitting here trying to create an argument and try to make a point that you yourself have no authority or intellect to even make the point on.
And again, I've talked to Scott Ritter, former UN weapons inspector, a number of times, and that he's one of the foremost experts on this subject. And the UN, the JCPOA was a phenomenal accomplishment. Was it perfect? No. Were there things that were not covered in it? Absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely.
But
did it hold their feet to the fire to where we didn't do what we need to do?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because had it not, then it would have been another war. We would have gone in and destroyed, did everything else we did the first time. It's a simple matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think
all you want to do is protect. You can say, I cannot believe that if he voted for Biden,
Obama twice.
And twice, and he voted for Trump this last time, that he would then turn around and do it again. That's a mess. I can't believe it.
Yeah, because at this point we're talking about leadership, and I don't know how you effectually, even if you didn't like Obama, you can't line the both of them up and still come out with a vote for Donald Trump. You just can't. You can't.
This is a whole different conversation. That's why the point that I was trying to make was your dislike or your distaste for Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And you're now deciding to double down on 23 when we're playing 21.
Right.
It doesn't make, it's a totally different conversation. Completely. Because the issues are different here.
Yeah.
The issues are different. The time is different. The structure is different.
And the danger is different.
Exactly. Everything is different.
Everything is different here. This is it comes down to, are you willing to vote for fascism in America?
Right.
Mr. National Security Clearance? Because that's what this has come down to.
Apparently he thinks
that's okay.
That's okay. And not understanding that all he's going to be doing is sitting there marching in line behind everything he tells him to do, because he'll tell him to go out on election day and stop everybody from voting.
It's not my show, but let's move on.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that my dear friend Andre's mother would say is
that too right there.
When you argue with idiots, nobody knows who the idiot is.
Okay, that's right. All right. So Jason, I mean, let's go with you, because I was getting ready before I took that call. I was getting ready to come to you about Wisconsin and what's going on.
I'm sorry, brother. I'm just very perplexed by that. Just very perplexed.
You and me both. I think that's the same caller I had last week for my town hall, who came in to tell me that Black folks had a 9% wage increase under Trump, right? And that we were doing. Look at you frowning. That is the same thing I did. Wow. Said, what the hell are you talking about?
Where is that report at?
Pre-COVID, Black folks had a 9% wage increase, and Donald Trump did everything pre-COVID and everything else. And what I should have said to him, I said, okay, pre-COVID, fine. I'm not going to argue with you on that, because it's stupid as hell and it's a lie. But what's happened after that? What has he done since then? I should have said that to him, but I didn't. I just went off and started, laying into it. But your state in Milwaukee, man, or Wisconsin.
Yeah, man. We like always, we are a battleground state. So there are a couple reports, polls that show written up 10. I would say that number maybe 4 or 5. But I'm pleased, but I'm still nervous, man. I mean, we had around 2 million, 1.9 million early absentee ballots turned in. That's around 63%. Milwaukee has been. We have 50% of the vote, so we've done very, very good compared to 2016.
Mm-hmm.
The question becomes, who's going to show up? The Supreme Court ruled all our ballots have to be in by tomorrow by 8 p.m. So,
was that the law before, or is that something that they just did? Because
that was the Supreme Court ruling this week.
Okay.
I believe you at one point
afterwards.
Yeah.
As in 2016, you guys were counting ballots afterwards, because it was only 11. Like I think it ended up like 23,000 votes.
22,000 votes.
So you guys were counting ballots after the election then, because you still weren't sure whether or not Trump was
right. So this is a prime example of the voter suppression, the strategies. And you see it now. I'll say this. I think in Wisconsin showed its colors by, again, we got the Supreme Court of a Democrat there, but man, it's always this. You're always fighting for just to keep things just for equitable treatment. You're always fighting so they don't change the rules in the middle of the game, and therein lies the problem. But I think we've been meeting it. I think, and you both know this. The one thing about us as Black folks, you tell us we can't do some stuff, we're gonna do it out of spite. So when we really feel like we need to take action is when something is getting taken away from us, or we feel like we're being unjustly treated. And right now, I feel good saying, and it's not just black folks here in Wisconsin, but a lot of areas outside of Milwaukee. I think you'll see some of those same people that voted for Obama and then went to Trump. I think you're gonna see them come back to Biden. But again, brother, this is 2020. I don't sing until every vote is counted and it's done. So I'm nervous until it's official.
And of course, you like my caller, you're gonna do it again, right? And Wilmer, I was looking. I said it in my intro. I was looking. I was watching one of the Florida state legislators down. I think he's the majority leader. A brother in Florida was filming or on his phone all these ballots and all this mail stacked up in the post office in Florida. I mean, it when I saw it and I was looking at, I mean, I immediately just got angry. I immediately, the if I was a snake, the venom would have been poisoned. I mean, you would have died instantly, because I was just, it just pissed me off so much, because what I thought about, Wilmer, was 2016, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. I thought about those areas right there, because 11,000 votes in Pennsylvania, 22,000 in Wisconsin, and 40,000 in Michigan. And I thought about the whole point of them supporting Bernie Sanders and wanting that. And at that point in time, they were still supporting Obama because he was getting that Supreme Court justice. But then to turn and forget about that justice and sit home and do nothing and not participate, Democrats could have that 6-3 advantage right now compared to Republicans having that 6-3 advantage. Had Hillary won, you would have had that advantage of what we're dealing with. And then to come back and argue, because even in 2018, when they could have taken out the Senate, then they didn't do it. And they allowed the news media and all the other stuff to come out, and they missed opportunities in Iowa, not Iowa, is it Colorado, maybe Colorado, Iowa, one of those places. They missed the opportunity where they even lost seats, because they had 49. They lost 2 seats, right? And ended up with with this the way it is now,
47-53.
47-53. Mm-hmm. And it's like, this is what I'm talking about. This is where we don't look beyond 2-year election and recognize what value it is when we actually get out there and do what we're supposed to do. Like you said earlier, being educated politically and understanding the value of our vote and understanding the value of the consequences when we don't vote, but then the repercussions of what can happen when we allow that to occur from the state legislature to Congress, where it goes wrong. And even like in Wisconsin, where you actually vote for your Supreme Court justices, they're not appointed. It's like, come on, people. Do you get it? That's where the laws are being changed. Right. Republicans always talk about they don't want advocate justices. Yes,
they do. Yes, they do.
That's all they get.
Right. Exactly what they want, because that's who they put on the bench. If you're not a staunch conservative, a pro-lifer, a pro-gunner, and everything else, a strict constitutionalist, then you're not getting on the bench. And that's what happens. So when you look at that, when you think about that, Wilmer, and they talk about, packing the courts and doing everything else, is there going to be any recourse that the American people are going to be able to have if, when it's all said and done, that it's these ballots and these votes that never got counted because the postal, DeJourno or whatever his name is, DeJoy, blocked and stopped it all? Because are they going to be able to go to the state Supreme Court or even the U.S. Supreme Court to argue that those votes should be counted? Because DeJoy said no, and in a lot of cases, some of the state constitution says yes, they should be, but the Supreme Court may say no, it shouldn't be.
Well, I think it depends on the state, because what we're finding from the Supreme Court decisions, particularly the last one in Pennsylvania, the court seems to be saying, and I think this was Kavanaugh's opinion, was that who is the U.S. Supreme Court to contradict a state Supreme Court on an issue of state law? as it relates to voting. That's what I took away from Kavanaugh in the piece in Pennsylvania as well as North Carolina.
I don't know Kavanaugh, because Kavanaugh said that the votes shouldn't be counted.
That's my point, because the state law, but see, it was a 4-4 decision. So Kavanaugh was saying that the Supreme Court should not weigh in on a state Supreme Court issue.
Okay.
When it relates to voting.
Okay.
Because who are they to know more than the state does about the state? That's his. That was his logic, and that will seem to be the prevailing sentiment on a 6-3 court.
Right.
So,
but he also said, Wilmer, that you should not be able to count those votes because there could be fraud in those votes.
That was another point that he made. Absolutely right. Even though the data shows that the amount of voter fraud in this country is about 0.00006.
Right.
Which means it doesn't happen.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a situation where the president has successfully packed a court. And now, see, they're talking about court packing.
Yeah.
We need to talk about what that really is and where we really are with that. Because when you look at the appellate court level, and when you look at the circuit court level and the appellate court level, or the appellate court level and the circuit court level, they have packed the court. And they have packed the court with activist judges.
Exactly.
Here's one thing that not many people are saying, but when they talk to Joe Biden about adding justices to the Supreme Court, there are 9 justices.
Right.
There were 9 circuits.
Right.
Each justice manages a circuit. Now there are 13 circuits. There need to be 4 more judges.
Yeah.
And that's not that's to our Mr. Security Clearance, that's mathematics, my dear brother.
Right.
That's not ideology, that's math. There needs to be, and this isn't constitutionally mandated. I'm just talking about practical caseload management.
Right.
There needs to be 1 Supreme Court justice per circuit to manage that circuit, because that's one of the things that the justices do, and a lot of people don't know that. So, for example, when there is an appeal for a death penalty appeal, a last-minute death penalty appeal to the Supreme Court, that midnight or 2 a.m. appeal that comes through.
Right.
One of the things that happens with a lot of those is only 1 justice responds, but nobody asks why. And the reason is the justice who responds is the justice who oversees that circuit.
Right.
So we have 13 circuits. You need 13 justices.
That's good. I
got you, Jason. I got you on that one.
Yeah, I was not aware of that.
He put us out there. He put us on. That's something that's real, because that's what they're talking about, packing the courts in there. But that's exactly what they did.
But Joe Biden allowed himself to get hung up on a question that was really stupid, and he shouldn't have allowed. And Kamala Harris too. That question was very simple to answer.
Yeah.
They could have answered it that way, or they said nothing, and then I would have preferred they said nothing about it.
Well, that's what they should have done.
Right. They should say nothing
about it. And just said, we're not going to talk about a hypothetical when right now we're dealing with Mitch McConnell and we're dealing with Lindsey Graham being hypocrites and going against the very thing that's all they needed to say.
There doesn't need to be a study. There doesn't need to be anything. Just shut up, say nothing, and wait. That's the thing that pisses me off about Democrats, because the reality of it is this, is that you need some independence in some of these states.
That's right.
You need some real good Democrats in these states, but you're going to need some Republicans in these states to vote. Republicans who are still conservative and want that justice will say, okay, we got the justice. and then to the point of being able to come and vote for Biden, if he says, well, I'm going to pack the court, I'm going to do this, they'll be like, oh, wait a minute, hold up. Right. I'm going to hold my vote. I'm just not going to vote at all, but I'm not going to vote for you because you're going to do this. Instead of just saying nothing, allowing the status quo to be the status quo, wait till he gets in office, and then do what the caller said when he gets the Senate and the House, jam and ram everything they can through.
Go buck wild.
As quick, but go buck wild. As quick as they can and as fierce as they can, and then hold those seats come midterm. But when you sit there and pussyfoot around and then try to get it through the midterm or think you're going to get that second, that edge over in the midterm, you might get locked out. You might get shut down. And you can't do that.
Do you honestly think he's going that we may get the Senate? Do you think there's 4 seats in there?
It's quite possible.
I think it's actually 5 seats there. 6 seats there, actually. I think there's 6 seats there. And then there's possibly I'm not sure how it's looking because I haven't looked lately, but Mississippi, because Mike Epps only lost by I think 2 points in that special election. Mm-hmm. And I think when she came out and said the only good nigga is one that's lynched, when she said that, right. I thought that was going to put him out there and over the top, but I don't think a lot of folks showed up. They didn't show up. And I think also in Georgia, the problem with Georgia is that everything goes to a runoff if you don't get 50%. Now, what they definitely need to do is Democrats get the majority in the state house, overturn that, and make it just a simple majority. Whatever, whoever gets the most votes wins. But this idea that you go 50%, and I believe they did that so that they can always have a runoff because it's a red state.
Right.
Can always then be able to come back against any Democrat when their ticket is split, like it is this time. It's split with 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat out there. They can then come back come January or something like that in a special, knowing that Democrats ain't gonna come back out again. Especially black folks ain't gonna come back out again, not in a January or something like that. Right. And again, they're not gonna do it. So they can always win the special again in that sense. But my hope is that Warnock can win that, and there's a surge because of what Stacey Abrams has been able to do, and he can get a 50%. He can get above 50% and really take that out. Because I think Purdue is gonna lose. Okay. I think Purdue is gonna lose. I think Warnock will win, but I don't know if it'll be a runoff or not. And so
what about Lindsey Graham?
That's gonna be tight.
That's real close. That's real close.
It's gonna take a huge amount of independents and some Republicans to go over there and do that because there's a registration advantage, and either they're gonna stay home or they're gonna do it and go with it. And the only way you're gonna get that is if you have some consciously minded white folks that says you were being a hypocrite, you really lied and you did what you did, and what you did was wrong, and I'm not going to vote for you or support you, and I'm going to vote for Jamie Harris. Now, if they just sit at home, I don't know if that gets him over.
Right.
We can get to about 40 in South Carolina. We can Harris can get to about 47%.
Yeah,
47%. With the black vote.
Yeah.
Right.
Then to Kelly's point, then he needs. He needs those college-educated white folks.
If he can get about 5% and get to like a 51, even 50. If he can even get to 50, I think he can win. A 50.2, a 50.3 or something like that. But if he gets to 51, he can win.
Okay.
If he gets to 51, he'll win. And that's what you got to do. You got to look at these Senate races and figure out, if nothing else, my thinking theory is that most of the Republicans they don't want Trump. So what they may do is they may vote in a Democratic Senate to be a check and balance on him, even if he wins, right? But the flip is that if they see a Democratic leader, they may flip in the midterm and go back to quo and go, unless Biden can really do some things and show some things that's going to help them understand where they are. So I mean, it's gonna be tough. But the GOP is bowing down. So where do we go? Because I'm looking for what states, Jason. What do you see in the battlegrounds? Where do you see us taking the lead?
I think I think Wisconsin goes to. I think we win Wisconsin. I think Michigan. I'll tell you, Pennsylvania and Florida. Those are. I think I think those will set the tone. I mean, I think if of course, if he wins Pennsylvania, then I think it's a wrap. Because I mean, if you look at numbers now, it's harder for Donald Trump to get to that 270. I just don't see where he gets it. He has to do a lot of winning across the country, man. I just don't see how many places he can do it. And so, I think the Midwest, I think, goes to Biden. And then I think if Pennsylvania comes over to Biden, it's a wrap. I don't think, even if Donald Trump won Florida, unless he wins both of those places, I don't see it. Because I don't think he'll win North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania. And if he doesn't win all those, I don't see how he gets to 270.
And Wilmer, what do you think about if Biden wins, Senate wins, do they get rid of the filibuster? Do they get rid of the Electoral College? Do they? I mean, let me put it like this: if they were to, garner the House and Senate, what should they do?
Well, they should get rid of the Electoral College. That one I agree with. Will they? I don't think so.
Nah.
And I don't know that they've been talking about the filibuster, but it was a Democrat that brought the filibuster in. So I don't know that they'll do that either. Because see, part of the problem is particularly with if these are knee-jerk kind of reactions,
right?
They come back and bite you in the butt, as the filibuster did.
Right. That's right.
When I'm trying to remember, Harry Reid. Was it Harry Reid?
Well, he changed the rules, but he hadn't gotten rid of the filibuster. Mitch McConnell got rid of the filibuster, but Harry Reid changed it so that they could get the circuit court judges in because blocking them, right? And so he's like, okay, well, let's change it to a simple majority,
right?
But then he did not get everybody through. It's like you sat there and you still let them have a voice,
right?
What do that for?
Well, and that's because that we have seen time and time again that the Democrats are soft.
They are.
They're not cutthroat. They're not scorched earth like the Republicans are. Exactly. But what we find, unfortunately, with the Republicans is that they have a tendency to overplay their hand. Yeah. And this is what I think is coming to haunt them now, is they're overplaying their hand. One state that I would say that we should pay attention to, which I think will be announced early and will be the indicator of things to come, is Arizona.
Right.
Yeah.
Me too.
Arizona, and I say that because there's been a tremendous demographic shift in Arizona. Yes, well, I was saying, and I don't know, Kelly, if you remember me saying this on this show a long time ago, I was saying Arizona is shifting Democrat.
Yes, it is.
And I was saying Texas,
yes,
is that Republicans are going to have to spend more money to keep Texas than they had planned to. I was saying that in 16 and saying that in 14.
Right, because 16, when we were talking about it, and even in 18, the way that shift was going, it seemed like then that Cornyn wasn't going to win.
Right.
And in 18, it certainly didn't think that Cruz was going to win. Right.
Right.
But certainly, now you have, the two Senate.
You've got 600,000 Latinos that have come of voting age.
Right.
You have a number of immigrants that have become naturalized American citizens.
Right.
And there's been a real demographic shift in terms of Californians moving into Arizona, New Yorkers retiring to Arizona, and folks from a couple of other democratically leaning states.
Right.
So, and I think Arizona has already started counting their mail-in ballots. So they just haven't tabulated them, but they've started the processing of them.
Right.
So they're going to be able to release their numbers very early in the evening.
Right.
As soon as like around 11 o'clock, because the West Coast will close at 8, which will be 11 here. And so around 8:30, I'm sorry, around 11:30, quarter to 12 Eastern, Arizona should be able to release their numbers. And Arizona also could wind up with 2 Democrats in the Senate.
I think they will. I think Mark's going to win. I think Mark Kelly's going to win.
Yeah,
Mark
and they already have one,
11
and he could be the second one.
Yeah, and I think he has a good argument. I think he will. I think he'll win that. But I'm thinking like this, Jason. If they were to get rid of the Electoral College and it was just popular vote, the Republicans would gerrymander everything around. It won't matter. But
that's the only way they could win. I mean,
but here's the thing.
I don't think
the Democrats don't want it either.
No, they don't.
The Democrats, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all, they don't want because they'll then have to answer to the very part of the party they rather lose with Biden than win with Bernie.
Right.
And they don't want that.
See,
that's real. That's real.
They don't want that.
They that much longer.
Huh?
Say
again?
Longer.
I'm not hearing you.
They're not going to be there that much longer. So
pray for rain.
You have to make that shift, because just like anything else, when it was like really far liberal, they had to come to the center. So you got it. And now
what center? Who's come to the center?
The center left. The center left. You had to come to.
Who?
Right?
The Democratic Legislative Council. Who?
The DLC. It ain't too many of us left.
There's not. But I'm talking about like right now. The party is divided right now. Right. So you got that the progressives, the true far progressives, and then you have those moderate progressives who are claiming progressiveness, but they're really not progressive. They're more moderate. And that's what's trying to hold them together. That's why they all came back and went for Biden. And it was like, no, we want Biden, because they didn't want Bernie. They didn't want to go that far because they was afraid that they would really be able to pigeonhole him as a socialist, put him in that box, and they would never be able to get out because most of the rest of the party wouldn't go. And Democrats are fickle. Yeah. They're not like Republicans. They don't fall in line. They're going to say, I don't want that, or I don't want this, or I'm just not going to do it. And I mean, all hell in a handbasket would have gone to hell. So they're trying to claim the moderation, but the party is moving there, so they're gonna have to go there. So that's why my point is that if it's about 25% of the party is progressive, the rest of it is, I think, more moderate. If they got rid of the Electoral College and they went to the straight popular vote, then that means you got to play in all the states, but you also have to play to your
a much broader base.
What you have to do, and that then makes you accountable everywhere to everybody. So you don't just go to the 5 outground states, the 3 battleground states, and you leave the center alone, because
that's why they don't want it. That's why they won't do it.
But the country is moving more democratic and progressive with these young folks and these millennials.
That is true.
So I would think that you would do that because that would be a benefit to you. Because
what you're saying is too much like right, and what you're saying is too much like logical, and and the benefactors that are writing Nancy Pelosi's checks, they're not thinking that way.
Yeah.
They're doing everything they can do to hold on to those checks.
Yeah, you do have a cultural, a difference between, and you're right, Professor, on the Democrat and Republican side.
There's a shift.
And I don't see how Republicans win if they don't shift their entire platform, because you can't keep winning.
They
There's going to be an implosion on either side of the aisle, depending on who wins. If Trump loses, there will be an implosion within the Republican Party. All of those folks that followed Trump off the cliff.
But I don't think they're gonna leave that quickly, because that.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying they're gonna leave.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is that there will be a fight. Yeah. There will be I believe, especially if they lose the Senate and if they lose the White House, there's going to be a serious fight within the old line Republicans that voted for Biden, the Lincoln Project, and all those people. Against the Tea Party faction that became the
Right.
What were they called?
The Tea Party. They were talking.
Yeah, but they then became. There's another group. There's another name for them now in the House, at least some kind of caucus. The Freedom Caucus. The Freedom Caucus people, right?
Right.
There's going to be a fight.
Yeah.
And if Trump wins, there's going to be a fight in the Republican Party between the squad and that faction versus Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, the Clintons, and all of them saying, y'all killed us. You wanted to die with Biden and not live with Bernie.
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick, I got about a few minutes left. What's at stake for us, man? What's at stake for us, Jason?
I think the future, man. I mean, somebody who, while we may not like it, we have his ear more than we have the other person's ear. And so at this point, I don't even think it's really about policy versus it's about morals and ethics, and somebody saying, at least I'm willing to listen to what y'all got to say, and we have a seat at the table. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, that's really what it boiled down to.
Right.
I agree 1,000%. And it's not about what are they going to give us. It's about what are we willing to fight for.
Right.
And that's been what's missing. That's what has been missing from the Congressional Black Caucus. And we know Joe and Joe knows us. And you stood up there and got absolutely nothing for what you said. Yeah. You got absolutely nothing. So it's about what are we willing to fight for, which up to this point has been nothing, because we keep being told to be patient and to sit back and be quiet. And let me say, what's at stake? They're projecting 3,000 people a day are going to be dying from COVID-19 in this country.
Right.
And Donald Trump's trying to take away your health care.
Right.
What's at stake? 30 to 40 million Americans that are about to be evicted.
That's right.
Right.
In the dead of winter.
Right.
In the midst of a pandemic.
Right.
That's what's at stake.
And that's the thing with the caller. I mean,
that's why I said it's a whole different. It's a different conversation now.
That's the conversation.
That Obama conversation, man, you might as well be back wearing bell bottoms and platform shoes and disco dancing. It's a whole different era, brother.
Okay. What got me, and I got a few minutes, but touch on this real quickly. A young lady I saw today, she made this statement. She said, black woman, she said, I never felt like this country valued me or wanted me or made me feel like I was a part of it. And so I never voted. I was never part of that process. She said, but this 4 years has made me see that it's so important about who we vote for or who we elect and put in. She said, so what I decided to do was that I decided that I'm going to make them recognize me and make them know who I am and respect me. And I'm going to vote in this process. But what I'm also going to do, she said, and she's probably about like late 30s, early 40s, probably somewhere in that, probably mid 40s. She said, I'm going to learn what this politics is all about.
That's right.
And when I saw that, I wish I had my phone so I could record it or rewind it so I could record it, because that's why I started this whole thing. When I came to you, Wilmer, that day when you were sitting in the old African-American Museum, the Civil Rights Museum in DC, and I said, I want that man. I want to start my show with him. And then you're like, well, who is this cat telling me to come to the studio, right? And that was 2015 or 2015. So it's been 6 years that we've been together doing this. And I was so grateful to you for doing that, because someone of your caliber, your insight and knowledge, to give someone like me starting out that opportunity to have you on the air, to talk about, to not only teach me, but teach my listeners and help them understand, is exactly why I started Black Politics Today, because I wanted something and I felt there was something that needed to be put together that talked about what was at stake for us, help us learn the intricacies of this policy, of these economics, and of the social issues that are impacting us every day that we have no clue what's happening. I mean, the mere thoughts of what you talked about in terms of the Supreme Courts and the districts.
Right.
You thought about what we talked about last week of the crime bill, the intricacies of the crime bill, what it was supposed to do and what it end up doing, right? And all the different things that we need to talk about from the state legislatures on up about where we are and what we need to do is that Black folks, we need to participate. We need to understand that we need to get engaged. Like that woman said, I may not have been a part of the process, and the process may not have loved me or wanted me. Like Doc Rivers said, when is the country going to love us? But from now on, I'm going to learn the process. I'm going to understand it. And you've heard me say it, Wilmer. You've heard me say it, Jason. Willie Brown taught me real clear. Learn the rules of the game. Because
he was the master of that.
Of the game, you can play it better than anybody else, because the most of the legislators and most of the people, they don't know the rules. They just playing it, and they asking a staff member or somebody else to tell them what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it. But when you learn it for yourself, you can play it, and you can play it better than anybody else. Quickly, Wilmer, go ahead.
To that point, once you learn how to play the game, as Tom Porter says, then you got to learn how the game gets played.
That's right. That's right.
And that's where, unfortunately, we fall short. And the second thing to the woman about politics is a very simple thing. It is the negotiating process.
Right. That's right.
Between interested parties.
That's right.
Over the distribution of limited resources.
Exactly.
That's all it is. It is the negotiating process between interested parties over the distribution of limited resources.
Right.
That's all it is.
Right.
That's my definition.
And they need to understand it and how it differs from government and policy and everything else. They need to understand
whether you're trying to buy corn, whether you're trying to get Social Security, whether you're trying to buy a bag of weed. It all comes down to the same thing. It's the negotiating process between interested parties over the distribution of limited resources.
That's the realest statement I've heard all week.
Only permanent interest, right? No permanent enemy, no permanent ally, only permanent interest.
That's where we mess up.
Black America,
we're too afraid about being liked, and we don't give a damn about being respected.
Exactly.
Let alone feared.
Okay. Black America, this is our moment of truth. In this moment of this pandemic, of this election, everything that's going on, we have to decide, and we have to vote, and we have to participate like our life depends on it. And actually, our life does. 230,000 people have died. And as Wilmer pointed out, under this administration, what they're going to look to do is another 7 million people got to die. Another 7 million have to die before we can get to a point where people will be immune, somewhat to this virus, and recognize that there's no guarantee that there will be immunity. There's no guarantee to that. There's no guarantee to the vaccine. There's no guarantees out there. So what we have to do is we have to learn how to manage it, but we need somebody up there managing it. So by this time tomorrow, next 24 hours, because polls will be closing at 8:30, 8 o'clock. By this time tomorrow, the Eastern and Southern District states will have voted. We will know pretty much where things are going. And the states that I'm looking at is Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. Georgia, I'm going to throw in there. But Florida, depending on where that goes, and North Carolina, depending on where that goes, that's going to tell us. If Trump loses Florida, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. If he wins Florida but loses North Carolina, it's a wrap. If he wins Florida and North Carolina but loses Pennsylvania, it's a wrap.
90 seconds.
If he wins Florida, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, we got to be concerned.
Check your passports. Time to go.
Yeah.
We have to win Arizona and the first and the second district of Nebraska, and we'll be able to keep and be able to win with 286 electoral votes to 268. So it's going to be close. So people, get out and vote. If you have not voted, get your behind out there and vote, and make sure you do. Warm up, pack up, do what the hell you got to do.
60 seconds.
And make sure you do it and bring somebody with you. Do not sit out there and let yourself be caught and say, oh man, I forgot. Because you did that in 16 and look what happened. You turned around in 18 and look what happened. So don't snap your fingers, snap your shoes, and get your foot on the base and start going out there and do it. Look, take care of it. Let's do it. Because I'm nervous just like you are. And I don't know what's going to happen. But what I do know is that I don't want to sit around and wait to see what's going to happen. I want to get involved with what's happening and make a difference. Until next week, that'll be our broadcast to talk about this again. So Wilmer, Jason, be ready.
We ready, man.
I'm out.
Okay. But I thank you guys. I want to appreciate it. If it's social, economic, or political, it's Black Politics Today. I want to thank everyone for joining
10
us tonight.
seconds.
And we'll say good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to Black Politics Today, an eye for what's at stake in global politics, with your host, Kelly Michael Williams. Join us live each Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Until next time, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and download us on iTunes at Black Politics Today.